Ascension and retention. So as you guys know, we've been kind of rolling into like the four phases, the four buckets. That's kind of been the game plan for the last few weeks. So we're talking about ascension and retention today. LTV, lifetime value of customer, for those of you guys that don't know what it is. MER, monthly recurring revenue, focus with longer term. Right? This is something that we've been putting a big energy into the last few, probably almost 2 years at this point, right? Like we would almost rather have recurring income than one-off payments, right? Like, and I'll tell you guys from like personal experience, like somebody's like, oh yeah, I want to jump into core. And they're like, we give them the option, like, hey, would you rather do one time or monthly? And they're like, oh, one time. It would be a lie if I said that didn't make me a little sad. Because I would prefer the monthly recurring, right? It just changes everything, right? You guys have heard us say it a bunch of times. So let's talk about ascension, different ways to ascend people. And this doesn't have to be a dirty, unethical thing, like that's a whole angle, no upsells ever. But in my opinion, starting every single month worrying where your next sale is going to come from is stressful as fuck, right? And I don't care if you're an affiliate, if you're doing this off like a low ticket subscription, if you're doing it from high ticket continuity, there's so many different ways that you guys can actually start building your own recurring revenue streams wherever you're at, right? Whatever stage in business you're at, right? Obviously, it'll grow and evolve as you grow. So that's kind of what we want to talk about. The easiest way to transition for all of you guys is having your own buyers community, right? Whether you have a buyers community where somebody gets housed when they buy an affiliate product, whether you have a community tied to the back end of your own products, digital, physical products, housing your actual buyers in a specific space and putting some type of time horizon on them, right? And this is one mistake I made when I first launched my own buyers groups and stuff like that. It was like, hey, you get lifetime access to my buyers group. And I should have put a time limit, 90 days, 180 days, 30 days. It gives you the opportunity to ascend. Low ticket buyers groups, viable option if you have your own products to promote, or like you're building your own type of continuity program. Look at like cash curriculums. Like every person in here could literally launch their own low ticket buyers group. Hey, for $15 a month, I'm going to run a live. For $15 a month, I'm going to answer all of your questions, right? Like give you support. That's a missing element that people feel like they don't have in their business, especially if they're buying a lot of products online that are absolutely massive. And the bigger and bigger things get, we naturally understand and know that the support starts to diminish because there's too many people, right? That's the reality of it, right? Like somebody was flexing the other day that they had 16,000 people in their buyers group, and it's like it sounds like a nightmare for the customers. Like,
Yeah.
sounds like a shitty experience for the people inside. It's way too many fucking people, you know. Which obviously sounds contradictory if you're running a buyers group because you need, obviously you're going to need volume or a low ticket subscription model. But I mean, if you had 100 people in a low ticket buyers group for $15, that's $1,500 a month for you every month to answer questions, to give feedback, to do whatever, right? Similar to, I think she might have left, shout out to her, Chantel, right? She's running a 10-month content bootcamp. It's a recurring income model, right? X amount of dollars per month or payment plan option for a group juice, right? That's the premise of it. Right? High ticket groups, product services, substantial price tag. Now, obviously, this is a bit different if you, like we're talking about having your own product. If you're an affiliate, I would probably still house the same people. Like, say, for example, somebody buys group juice, they buy triple C's, they buy whatever from you. I'm going to put them in my own group, right? Like that's one thing that never made sense to me is I think I saw a comment about it on Dom's thing, one of Dom's videos about why it made more sense for the people selling master resale rights to send people to Michelle Sparks' group. It's like I would grow my own group. Right? Even if I was selling that thing, I would put people in my own community. Right? I want those relationships. I don't want the relationships to get formulated over there, because then, they might say no upsells ever, but when they do an upsell, who do you think they're going to go to? They're going to go to the creator of the group, right? They're going to go to you if you're the creator of the group, right? Premium price groups, similar to like core, right? Catering to a select group willing to invest more exclusively. Now, if you guys don't have, the one thing I will mention too is, like, if you don't have a lot of results under your belt, you don't have, expertise, running a structure like core would be hard, right? It will be difficult for people to justify the investment, especially if the price tag's a lot higher, right? $500 to $1,000 a month. It can be a hefty price tag, so you gotta play lower, right? You can still do it for a lower price tag, right? $100 a month, $200 a month, and you're gonna help them do specific things, specific targets, etc. This would be like best case scenario, and what I would like to see a lot of you guys eventually end up working towards, because it can change a lot of your life and business, because you don't need massive volume to make a substantial amount of money, right? If you say you accomplish this really cool target in your business, and then you help handfuls of people deploy that over the next, few years, the LTV is absolutely insane with running a higher ticket continuity program, right? And there is people that will say they don't like it. They think it doesn't work. They think it's too expensive. I mean, we've been paying Jacob every month for 2 years, like $1,500 to $4,000 a month, right? Like, that's even, I mean, if you look at it on a little bit lower of a level, that's taking 2 customers and, what, $80,000-$90,000 from 2 people. That's a big transformation, right? In business, stress melting, and that's a far off goal for a lot, but example of ways that works. Pop-up groups, temporary communities designed for asset creation or training purposes. These work really well for Ascension, or like, if you look at how we end up running, some of you guys were on the Juice Box live with us. We built a live group purely to create the trainings, and then we offered Ascension on the back, right? Now, don't try to launch all of these at once. All right, I'm not listing out these examples because I want you guys to go create 7 different groups and have all these different layers in business. I'm just giving you examples of different group structures, buyers, community structures. Build one at a time, and if possible, minimize the moving parts when you can, right? Like, there's been a few of you in here that were like, hey, consolidate some of your groups, consolidate some of your offers, house it all in one place. And that's based on our own experience of launching all these different groups and communities, and just eventually you have this big rat's nest of a business, and you don't know really what you want to do. So if I was starting over again, I was primarily an affiliate. If I was starting over again and I was primarily an affiliate, this will obviously be applicable if you have your own products. I would do one buyer's group with a time horizon on it. So, like, for example, if we were doing a $500 offer, it would be like $500 offer, and then you get 6 months inside this community, right? Or 90 days inside of this community where I'm going live, I'm offering support, I'm offering implementation of the information, right? And then once you start running that community and you start selling spots and you have consistent people coming in, then you can start looking at different ways or different angles to ascend people post 90 days, right? Hey, okay, well, you were in this group for 90 days, you want prolonged access, then it's X amount of dollars per month. Or you sell them the next thing, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be the same thing. This will give you the ability to basically get paid to build your own suite of assets, bonuses, etc. That's how we ended up launching Core and had, dozens and dozens of trainings in Core before we ever even did our first training in Core. We were both running paid communities. People would buy product X from us. We would run lives, Zoom calls, similar to Core trainings. And then, we use those trainings in the future. Ascend and remove folks when their time is up, right? It's a big one. Doesn't have to be a bad experience, right? Like, hey, you've been in here for 90 days and I've helped you do X, Y, Z. I'd love to work on that next problem with you over the next 90 days, right? This. Oh, go ahead, man.
I just want to throw one thing in there. Don't be afraid to talk about your prices, like, publicly, especially if you want, like, ready folks coming to you. Like, if you charge $1,000 a month, fucking say that shit, and then all you got to do is share why, right? Like, the average person in the world, if you said, hey, you sell this $1,000 thing, they're gonna be like, who the fuck pays $1,000 a month for something like that? Those are the people that aren't aware of how it can be beneficial or why it's beneficial. I wouldn't even worry about those people. Because if you got someone out there that's making $5,000 a month and they have no idea how to get to $10,000 a month, or if they're making some money every month and they've got an audience of 1,000 people, and they see you talking about, hey, I have an audience of less than 1,000 people, and I've extracted 20, 30 grand from it, whatever the case might be, they can be like, fuck, why can't I do that? It's like, hey, well, I run this this thing where I charge $1,000 a month with the whole goal of getting small audiences monetized up to 10 grand a month, as an example. So don't be afraid to talk about your price, as long as you can justify why it is that price and you can be confident in it, and it comes through in your tonality on how you say it. Then you'll have better people raise their hands. It might be less people, but it will be better people. So I just wanted to throw that in there real quick.
Let me see comments. Can't zoom today, apparently.
Yeah. So, like, once you're done, like, if you're just doing it just for a pop-up group, that can be a place where it's like, hey, after the 90 days is up, you'll get removed. But then this is where you could talk to them and be like, hey, I've taught you everything about going live and the masterclass itself. You're a person I'd love to do some closer work with, some more intimate work with, to help you do XYZ. That becomes your ascension plan. So, like, hey, especially if you tell them early on, like, hey, I'm only running the trainings here in the group, for the next 90 days or however long it takes, or I'll keep you in here an extra month after the fact, whatever it might be. Then you can easily hit them up and follow up, like, hey, we're coming up on that 90 days, just seeing if you wanted to do some more stuff together where we plan out X, Y, and Z so you can accomplish A, B, and C. If not, all good. I just wanted to come to you because you're a person that I would love to work with more closely. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if Flip already mentioned this. The support structure that you provide will play a big part in how easy or hard the ascension is, or how long people stick with you, right? That's a big thing we see a lot too with, like, we see this a lot with, like, affiliate payment plans and stuff like that. Like, month 3 or 4, people will fall off, and it's like the affiliate has never even talked to them after they purchased, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've gotten messages from people like, oh yeah, so and so that sold me group juice, I haven't ever talked to him again. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
that will play a big part on it.
Yeah.
If you're heavy on support post purchase, the rest becomes easier. That's not to sound cliche or anything like that, right? That's the reality of it. If you maintain close proximity, and I'm not encouraging you guys to bend over backwards for every single person and everybody who, like, takes advantage of you or is like a nightmare client. That's not what I'm saying. Like, obviously you're going to have your bad experiences with clients. That's just part of the game.
Yep.
Pre 10 to 20K, go heavier on one-on-one, more access and support. The reason I mention this is because it's going to be a lot easier to increase the perceived value if you are, like, in the weeds with them. If you're personally helping them do something And then you can always dial this back, but it will work really well at getting the momentum going. Right? The hardest part is usually, as Flip mentioned in the beginning, the hardest thing was going from 0 to 100K, right? The hardest part for someone who's kind of early or new or still trying to get the consistency going is getting to those first those first monetary results, that first $10,000. And then you can roll that success and that momentum and that the things that you've accomplished into doing your next 50, your next 60, your next 100, right? Post consistent sales, look at rolling into something more leveraged, live video, group setting. This will also help with selling proximity, selling access, right? It's like if you guys look at this on a little bit of a deeper level, it's by design that we do Zoom on core and we do lives in group juice, right? We could do Zooms for our group juice students. We could do live Zoom calls for everybody in group juice, right? Like, hey, come join us on a Zoom session. But that's one angle that we're using as the Ascension. Hey, if you want us in the weeds, you want actual direct access to us, if you want, proximity to us, you want support in real time on Zoom. There's reasons, right? So it makes it easier to leverage proximity if you have those different layers, right? You join us on lives, Q&As, and dedicated questions thread and stuff like that. Whereas on core, it's like, hey, you can ask us anything and we'll actually give you like personalized feedback. You can send us an offer doc and we'll help you create it. Whereas we're not doing that in group juice, right? It's that different layer of a support structure, right? Goes back to the experience that I talk about all the time. She's probably still on here, unless she had a client. Is with good old Queen Colleen. Maintaining those post-purchase relationships can change everything. No, she's not on here. I sold her $100 affiliate product years ago, and she's been in here in core with us for since we started. She's been in everything, but that wouldn't have been possible unless I maintained those post-purchase relationships. It's a good real-time example of that, what that looks like. Now, obviously, there's other people that bought that same $100 product who never went anywhere, right? There's other people that, are still trying, but they never capitalized on anything that I was giving them. That's still part of the process, right? This will play a big part and a huge part in stacking monthly recurring, consistently ascending, and not having to start every month at zero. Is the relationship piece, the post-purchase, the buyer's relationship. If you look at another real-time example of this, look at when we launched cash curriculums. The bulk of the people that jumped in were already buyers. Right? Some of you guys have bought multiple things from us. You bought other offers, other JV opportunities, right? Because of the relationship, because we're supporting post-purchase. If we would have sold you something and then ghosted you, you probably would have never bought anything from us again, right?
Because people do that shit.
Oh yeah, they do.
Like I see it literally every day. Like there's so many motherfuckers in the online world that, say they run businesses where all they're doing is just chasing sales, and then they don't even never talk to the person that buys. Because half the time they don't even know the person that buys. Or even take the time to reach out and be like, hey, thank you for buying my thing. Let me know if you need help or support. They're just like, oh, I made 17 sales. And then they miss out on the whole relationship side of shit. And they're like, I don't know why people aren't buying. It's because you fucking sold them and ghosted them. Like, I'll tell you this. I had one guy, he used to be in core. He might make it back. But he texted me because I gave him my number. I'd sold him SAA and group juice almost 2 years ago. And he just kind of life got busy. He disappeared. But he called me the other day and he was upset because he was like, I can't sell SAA. I was like, dude, you've been gone for a year and a half and you're mad because you can't sell SAA? Like, you haven't been selling it. Like, look at what you got. I said, you still got group juice. I said, but you haven't showed up for a year and a half. And I let Nate me and him were getting ready to get on a call, and Nate heard everything I gave him so much tough love. It's like, dude, you're mad about something that you haven't been involved with for almost 2 years. Like, why are you mad? And I was like, instead, why don't you start creating content, show up for the weekly calls where you still have coaching support? He's like, oh, but it's not high ticket. I was like, Group Juice is high ticket, bro. I said, you've been gone. I said, we've done updates. I said, we've added trainings. I was like, you haven't been here. I was like, you gotta make the decision to show up and be consistent, right? Like, you have nothing to be mad about. I was like, if you're gonna be mad at anyone, it should be yourself, right? But we still got that relationship. And you know what? After I was showing him tough love, you know what he did? He thanked me. Thanks, man. That's what I needed to hear. Right? Let's see. Real before we keep going, I wanted to make sure Kate saw my other reply. Like, and this goes for all of you, as you're rolling out trainings and stuff, like you're doing actual trainings from where you came out of a promo, don't forget to push for feedback and engagement around what you're teaching, and then let that come back to your content. Because even though you've ended the promo, that's not to say you can't continue pre-selling. Like, if I ran a promo, like me and Nate have done this a handful of times, and then we start talking about what's happening behind the scenes. We're, creating the training and rolling things out and doing what we said we were going to do. We still get folks that come back like, hey, can I get in this? Now, we can either say, no, it's closed, should have jumped in, or we can cut them a deal in the DMs, right, privately. Still do custom deals. You can still sell the regular price if you want, or push for the new price after the promo ended, etc. But you want to push for feedback as you're teaching and use those in your marketing and in your content, so you can keep pre-selling and keep getting conversations. Like, hey, I can put you on the waiting list. And then over time, you can build a roster of people you can hit up. Like, hey, I'm opening this back up. If you want to jump in, before I open it back up, I'll give you the old price before I, double it. It's like, it'll just feed itself as you're teaching in real time.
And then as we mentioned too, Flip mentioned this in the beginning of the call, is like 2024, we're going to be doing a bit of a rebrand, not even necessarily as like a rebrand or, changing the color scheme of our shit. Like, that's not what we mean by a rebrand, just changing the messaging of who we help and what we do, and kind of
Pink and
leaning
purple.
more into like a bigger market, community growth and community monetization, which is congruent, to what we've already been doing, right? We have group juice, we've had group juice, right? But less strategy centric as far as like TikTok to Facebook groups. It's more of, hey, we'll help you grow and monetize a fucking community, whether it's on Reddit, whether it's on, school, kind of just a bigger picture, tapping into a bigger market. As a whole, doubling down on communities at different stages, right? Obviously practicing what we preach, all external traffic to public groups, which becomes a melting pot of strategy, content, and offers. Cash curriculums, low ticket subscription, which builds monthly recurring, is designed for retention. This is a big thing with low ticket subscriptions that nobody talked about, is the retention rate. The retention rate with low ticket subscriptions can be really hard to balance if you don't do it correctly, because people will just like get the $30 thing and then they're like, I don't really want this, right? Like, it'll be a thing. But that's also why we've like dangled carrots, if you notice, in school, right? Hey, if you get to level 8, you get free access to group juice, which would take someone would have to be very fucking active for a very long time to get free access to that, which means they've been a paid client for a long time, right? Part of it. But also you have to think about the natural thing that happens throughout that process is people start to ascend, especially with the way that we have it structured. And we're just talking about Like, for example, hey, I'm just breaking down a real-time example of how we're running this promotion. People are going to be like, well, fucking, I want in on this promotion. Right? Hey, this is why we're doing a $150 a month payment plan option for group juice and our thought process behind it. And then we're getting messages on school like, hey, how do I get the $150 offer? We're making offers without making offers, if that makes sense. Right? We're just talking about the thing, and that creates awareness. Right? It's like a good example of this is like if you see a Oreos commercial or like a Oreos ad. They're not creating that ad because they want you to fucking buy the Oreos right then and there. It's because they want you to think about Oreos, and then next time you're like at the store, you're like, oh yeah, right? They're planting subliminal seeds around the product.
Hell yeah.
It's
My
not
favorite
like
thing to do at 1 a.m. is crush a sleeve of Oreos with milk. Like crush them. I crush
I
a
see. I
whole
never really
fucking
liked Oreos. I don't like frosting. I'm a weirdo. I don't like cake either. Psychopath.
fucking weirdo. Damn.
Um, yeah, buy Nate forever. Yeah, exactly. They said, fuck that guy. Um, Group juice, right? Obviously, still our baby. I know even though Flip mentioned, like, yeah, group juice will die at some point, which is it will, right? That's the reality of it. Things stop picking up attention and they stop picking up, things. We'll have to pivot. We'll have to talk about different strategies, concept, etc. Right? People get too hyper focused on strategy, right? So if TikTok stops trending, everybody's going to be like, well, group juice doesn't work because you guys talk about TikTok. And it could be a completely different short form video content medium, but because we're not specifically talking about that, people will start to lose interest, right? That's a real thing. We'll have to evolve, adapt, whatever. Um, but we're still prioritizing payment plans, right? Which all feeds monthly recurring. We're running a promo right now, which is all about monthly recurring because we want that in our own businesses, right? And it's also a really awesome way for the affiliates to melt stress. That's the reality of it too. Um, and we're not doing this from a good real-time example. Flip mentioned that the last few months we've been building and like income's dipped. Um, Now instead of operating from hey, we need to do this thing to make more sales, like this is a good example of doing something while still thinking longer term, right? Like we're running this discounted promotion, which doesn't fix immediate cash flow problems, but we're acquiring customers that will be paying us until August next year, right? Like, yeah, we might not be able to fucking, buy a Lamborghini by the end of the month, but we're going to be making payment. We're going to be getting customers paying us until almost the Q3 of next year, 2024,
Yeah.
from based on the
Well,
decisions we're making right now.
and just to give y'all a quick inside look, like Nate and I both, I don't know if Nate's already did his. I didn't do mine yet. But we're gonna do like a short 10-minute offer breakdown, probably on like a Loom video. And he's already uploaded the uh, Monday's training to his YouTube channel. He sent me the file. I'm gonna do the same thing, and then we're gonna do a quick 10-minute offer breakdown. And then this just gives us something that we can send to folks because if if we want to be realistic, we would love to get 100 people on the payment plan, right? It's a lot of people, but we got the audience for it. Just between me and Nate, it's definitely doable. But the only way that we're gonna have any chance at doing that is if we show the offer to like 500 people or more, and we're well aware of it. So between now and the end of November, it's like we should easily be able to show the offer to 500 people or more. If we do that, then mathematically it makes sense. Because if you think about it, if it's a $1,500 offer, right? So I'm gonna pull up my calculator. So let's just say it's 1,500, or we can go the payment plan. All right, so 150. If we do 150 times 100 people, it's 15,000, right? So if we show it to 500 people, we do 150 times 500. That means we need to make $75,000 in payment plan offers, right? Just in a nutshell. So if we put $75,000 worth of $150 a month offers, there's a good chance that we can hit that 100 person mark, right? So we'll have to grind. But if we grind, and I'm not saying like kill ourselves to where we're just like absolutely exhausted and brain dead, but I'm saying like we just show up consistently, bringing awareness and making offers and talking to people. If we grind, that's what I mean by grind. Between now and the end of November, that can potentially pay us for almost a year, right? 100 people at 150 a month. I can't remember exactly what that was. I think it comes up to like 7,500 between me and Nate. So that's off of like if affiliates were to close. So just being realistic here, if we do that 7,500 times 10, it's a $75,000 raise going to our baseline. So if we look at that number based off of what we already have in monthly recurring, that takes us from 75,000 plus 360. That takes us to $435,000 baseline per year. This is where like I actually like math, because when you can break shit down that way, it's like holy shit, this is really cool. And as long as we keep at the forefront of our brain, like we're doing this to actually help people, because we really truly believe if folks get our information and vigorously implement that shit, that they can be more happy, get better results, become a better person, a better marketer, better business owner, and just win all around. So yeah, I think we're worthy of, getting paid well to do that. And you guys should also be thinking that way too. Like fuck all those people that are like, oh, it's a scam. Oh, this is bullshit. Buy my course. Fuck yeah, buy my course. It changed your life, dumbass. That's how you need to be thinking about it.
I have a
I mean,
question.
I mean it. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't have I don't, my keyboard still don't work, so I just have to shout out when I have a question. But
Yeah.
how did you said you wanted to send the offer you wanted to get 100 people in.
hmm
How did you okay, how did you come up with how many people you actually need to send the offer to?
Basing that off of data for the last couple of years, like I think one of the promos we uh we made like 250 offers and closed 75. So looking at that percentage, if we want to close 100 spots, we need to make 500 offers. So just basically 5xing. Like if you want to make, say you got an offer that pays you $100 and you want to get 10 people in, you need to show your offer to at least 50 people, because just in doing that, you're going to close some, but you're also going to get data from the entire 50 people so that you can tweak your content, tweak the messaging, tweak the offer itself, right? Because you're getting real data and feedback from folks, whether they say no or yes. Like, I'm not even mad at no's anymore, because I'd be like, hey, all good, but could you tell me, what made it a no for you? And I'd be like, oh, it was such and such. Cool. Now I'm going to go talk about that in content. That way I can, for the most part, I can kind of kill that objection further, right? And the more I do that, if I get 10 different objections from those 50 people, I've then got 10 things I can include in the offer dot to crush. I can also include that in conversations, and I can also include that in the offer dot. So the more data I can get, the better I can make shit, whether they tell me yes or no. If I get a yes, hey, cool, glad to bring you on board. Here's a link. Can you tell me what made it a yes for you today? And then simply switching that when it's a no. Hey, I know it was a no right now. All good. Could you tell me why? Or is there anything I could do to make this a yes today? I'm just fishing for feedback, right? If I show this offer to 500 people, me and Nate, like you better bet your ass we're gonna get some bomb ass data from it, right?
Well, I think it's more important to set your goals to things that are in your control, right? So, like as Flip mentioned, right? Like, okay, if we want 100 people, we can't make 100 people buy, right? We can't physically pull out 100 people with credit cards and get them to sign up for our product, but we can control how many times we send the offer to people, right? So like that is something in our actual control. So it's important to like set your goals or the things that you want to do to something that you actually have the ability to have a part in, right? Like, because naturally what happens is, hey, we're gonna, okay, so it's like, hey, we want to make $10,000. Like instead of setting the goal to making $10,000, like what is the cause and effect of the $10,000, right? So if I need to have, if I want to make $10,000, I probably need to send this amount of offers. It's not going to hurt going higher, right? Go more offers, right? Go bigger, right? Like, okay, well, if I want to make 10 sales, then I'll send 100 offers, right? That gives you the what, 10%? You got to convert 10%. You could even go higher. Um, but that's like something that you actually can do versus like I need to make this money, but then we don't have any direct correlation to like how you're going to make that money versus setting the objective to the thing that you can actually do. Right. And then working backwards from that. Well, okay, well, I don't have enough conversations to like even make 10 offers or 100 offers. Okay, well then what do we need to do to facilitate more conversations? I probably need to test some content. We need to test some different angles. We need to do etc. Right? Like that's a good way to look at a lot of the things is like setting your goals to things that we can actually control, right? Okay, well, I need to do this number of pieces of content. I need to extend X number of invites to people because that's going to cause me to get to that monetary thing that I internally want, right? Instead of being like, hey, I want to hit $30,000 a month in recurring income. Well, okay, well, what do I actually need to do that? How many people do I need to talk to? How many people do I need to get into core? How many people do I need to get on a payment plan? And then breaking that down even a little bit lower. Okay, well, if I need this number of people in, then I need to like talk to this number of people or send this number of offers. Right. It'll be a little bit different for everybody's business. And obviously, uh the percentages can always vary, right? It'll vary. So like going higher isn't always going to hurt as far as like how many offers you need to send. Lastly, and then I'll kind of riff on the two comments that Ashley and Jeanette had too. Semi-aggressively creating more awareness around core, capping out the number of spots. We have in different tiers, start building a wait list. The thing with Ascension is one thing needs to feed the next. They all need to work together in unison. The key to Ascension and retention is helping somebody solve the next problem. And I'm not saying to intentionally create problems in people's business, but look deeper at what they are going to need next, and that becomes what you're going to help them with. Right? So an example of this is if you're giving somebody a masterclass that's going to help them generate their first 1,000 followers on TikTok, what is the next thing that they need? Right? They probably need to make a sale. They need to make an offer. They need to make a conversion. That becomes the anchor for how you're trying to ascend somebody. Right? Like we can look at the 15-day business builder challenge. They're giving you 3 pieces to the puzzle. And I'm not saying this is an ethical way to do like Ascension, but then they're locking you out of the rest of the program before you get on a sales call with them. Right? You have this problem that you want to solve. They're going to help you solve it once you do this thing that they want. Right? So like on a deeper level, that's what we need to do with Ascension. Obviously, don't do it that same way. I'm just giving you guys like a real-time example. If you help somebody generate 1,000 people in their group, okay, well, what do they need? What do they need to do with those 1,000 people in the group? Right? You help somebody accomplish fix one problem. Naturally, there's a problem that gets created inside of solving that thing. Right? Somebody builds their funnels, they build their automations, they build all these things. Okay, the next thing they need is they need to understand how to get people to it. That's what you're selling them. That's the next thing. It's the problem you're going to help them solve. It's not like you're helping them solve the same thing over and over again because there's no incentives for them to do that. Now, a good example of this is like some of you guys will know because you guys have enrolled with us for more than 6 months is like look at look, someone comes into core, we help them dial in an offer, a consistent plan of focus for the next 6 months. The goal for them to renew isn't going to do the exact same thing for the next 6 months, right? Once you've done that thing with us in that 6 month period, it's not like we're going to help you do the same thing again and again and again. It's like, okay, well, what is the next problem that you're going to have? And then we're going to work on that, right? We've helped you do this. Now let's do this next thing. Let's play around with pricing. Let's play around with promotions. Let's play around with the next problem that you're probably going to run into versus just trying to solve the same problem over and over again, right? So these are good examples of that, as I mentioned already. And some angles for Ascension, right? Can't necessarily be more of the same. That's like a hard sell. And this is the one thing I was going to mention too. With Jeanette and Ashley and Jill, like if you guys have your own products, play with elasticity and pricing, right? If somebody says no, I can't afford that, okay, well, what can you afford? If you own a product, you have full control of what you can sell the product for, right? Like we've sold group juice at $75 a month for 15 months. You know, like, did we say that? Are we out there publicly like, hey, you can get group juice for $75 a month? No.
Hell no.
Hell no.
But look,
But if somebody's like, hey, I would love to be in this thing with you and I would love to learn from you, but I can't afford the $1,000. I can't afford the $1,500. I can't afford this. Okay, well, what can you afford?
yeah. And check this out. That person that we met where they were at $75 a month because that's what they could afford. Now, they defaulted on those payments after a couple months. But I know some of you are probably like, well, that's fucked up because you did what they could afford. True, but this person that we sold it to for $75 a month, they made like 4 or 5 sales with group juice. So they brought us new customers. They made money and we made money. So it still had an absolute plus side because technically they still paid for group juice because those sales they made brought Flake Digital income, right? So if we had not have met them where they were and dug a little bit into what they could afford, they would not have been able to get access to our training and they would not have been able to close those sales and make more money for themselves. So it's like legit a win-win because we were willing to lower the entry fee. You know what I'm saying? So like it's always worth it in my eyes to see and dig a little bit. Like, hey, look, totally get it. Finances can be tricky as fuck sometimes. It's like I know damn good and well you're getting that McDonald's combo every other day of the week though, but you don't have money. But like, look, let's really see what we can do here. And this is where you would anchor in what they told you. Like, I get folks all the time, Flip, I want to make money. Okay, well, look, I got this thing that'll teach. I don't want to spend it. Okay, well, you're not showing up as a buyer, so you better not get online expecting people to buy from you when you're not showing up as a buyer. Right? Like, I paid $2,000 for a fucking phone call the other day. Do you think I'm gonna feel okay with like, hey, my lifetime with weekly coaching training, it's been the reason we made 7 figures, is $1,500 one time? You think I'm gonna be confident in saying that? Fuck yeah, because I show up as a buyer every month. I buy shit. I invest shit. I invest in me, time, energy, etc. So just be cautious. Pay attention to the vibe and how you feel with the person. But if you really think you can help them and you can get to a budget they can afford, then it might be worth the nudge.
And
Yeah,
you guys can also do this on like prioritize payment plan options for like group juice or any affiliate offer, right? Like doesn't have to be us. Running a promotion specific to the payment plan, right? That can be a good one. Have your own product, give customs, meet people where they're at. Right? We do this all the time, even behind the scenes, even still to this day. we'll have affiliates reach out to us and like, where the hell did this $50 commission come from? Well, it's because we met somebody where they were at. They couldn't afford the payment plan, so we just, hey, you know, you never know what ends up happening, right? You end up creating customers and doing deals behind the scenes for people, and people appreciate that shit. You know? Or like when we were in Myrtle Beach, like Demi was talking to me about converting a Clarity client, and they're like, oh, she's like, oh, she can't afford it. And I'm like, well, give her a fucking trial, sell her 30 days in the fucking thing, and then now that person's been in Clarity with them for ever since, because they started with a, hey, like, you don't have to make this commitment, right? We'll do this thing with you and like get you in, and then like it's all good, right? Like you don't want to stay. We'll do this game plan for 30 days, and then afterwards, like if you want to stay, cool. If you don't, you don't. Right? Like have the bandwidth to work with people, right? Like people will appreciate that shit, and then also you'll make more money. Like the reality of it, you'll make more money because it's custom, it's personalized. It's not just like, oh, you don't have 6 grand, like it's all good. Like, see
Yep.
ya. Okay, well,
Yeah.
how can we make this work?
Yeah, I think the only person here would probably be Matt that's still in core. I had a buyers group called Flips Freedom Fighters a long time ago, and it was a $1,500 for the offer, and I was cutting them deals like they could buy either SAA. This was actually before group juice was invented, but they could buy SAA, which paid me a $750 commission, and then I was still charging $750 upright to make the 1,500, right? So they was paying for access. But Matt was one of those folks, and you see where Matt's at. He's still here with us. Kind of got adopted in with Nate, just like some other folks. But like you got to be willing to go out there and play around with pricing. Folks that say they don't have money typically and usually do have money, but they just haven't seen what they need to see for it to be justified, right? Like right now, group juice at 150 a month is a fucking steal. If they've already got an offer or something they could sell, and it's like one high ticket sale pays for their monthly thing or multiple months of it because it's a different way of doing things, then boom, that would easily be justified. But they might not look at it in that way because they're like, oh, I've gotten burned 17 times and I've got a bad taste in my mouth, and you're just selling me something else. It's like, hey, look, I know you could be burned out. I've been there, done it. I burned out through 17 different courses and spent 40 grand before I found one that actually worked. Had I quit based on me getting burned on other shit, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So like that's where folks are at. So many folks have bought, I could sit here and name a bunch of courses from a bunch of coaches and mentors, blah blah blah. But they're hot. They're hot right now because they got burned and they were sold and told what it wasn't. So it's our job to we kind of get screwed a little bit because we're like trying to mend the wounds of other people. It's like you getting shot and then being mad at the doctor for trying to fix you up. That's pretty stupid, right? Like, fuck no, you can't fix my bullet wound. I got shot out here, you know? Versus they can actually help you fix your shit and get you better, but you want to be mad at them because somebody else shot you. It makes no sense at all. So we gotta dig a little bit and let them know, hey, we're actually here to help. I can actually fix that gunshot wound. Everybody else just kept putting band-aids on it. I'm here to sew your shit up so you can actually heal, have a battle scar you can talk about, start more conversations, and let that battle scar, grow everything else moving forward.